Well, hello everyone. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. This is Rick Goetze here, the Canadian author of the Little Ricky series of short stories. Today's short story is called The Gallant Ghost. Today's reading with Ricky will focus on The Gallant Ghost, a ghost story. This is not a traditional ghost story where it's all about being spooked and scared and what have you. It's about a poor young woman who leaves this earth a little bit sooner than she had hoped for, but yet she has this amazing ability beyond the grave to come back and to make sure that her friends know that she really appreciates all that they did for her. Anyway, today's feature story in Reading with Ricky will be The Gallant Ghost. A very spooky time, a very spooky ghost story. Not scary, but spooky because it's very imagined of what becomes of us beyond our current human life. Anyway, before I get into the Reading with Ricky story for today, I wanted to talk a little bit about myself. My name is Rick Goetze, Richard Joseph Michael Goetze, and I'm a Canadian author. I write short stories not to make myself famous at all, but to work to help the poor. So what I do is I write and sell short stories, and I sell them on Amazon.ca, the Canadian version of Amazon, and on Kobo.com. And I write and sell these short stories not for myself to be rich and famous, but for me to use my talent to help the people who are less fortunate. Basically, what I do is when you buy a book, I earn royalties, and those royalties that I earn, I do not keep. I don't keep them for myself. I don't keep them to become rich and famous. I give them to a food bank. I give them to a food bank because there are so many people today struggling to make ends meet, and they can't afford to buy food at the grocery store. And they need to use the food banks across Canada. So what I do is when you buy a book and I earn money, I give that money that I earn from you to a food bank. I give it to the food bank so that they can buy food to stock their shelves so that the poor people of the city can come in and pick up something to eat. So at least you know that when you buy a book from me, somebody hungry, especially a child, is going to have a meal tonight. So that's what I'm all about. So where did my journey start as a Canadian author? My journey started in the year 2000 whenever I started writing short stories, mostly for fun, and I was posting them up on Facebook, sharing them with my friends and family and what have you. But as I found out, people were telling me, you have a pretty good talent as an author. We'd really love for you to write more. So what I did is I combined those short stories into my first collection. My first collection, published in the year 2001, called Little Ricky, the Boy from Otter Lake, was my first collection of 12 amazing, heartwarming short stories of a little fellow called Little Ricky. Little Ricky is my protagonist, and in this particular series, he is a 5-year-old boy, well, from age zero when he was born to age 5, and he grows up in this small little hometown called Otter Lake, where he meets people, he meets family and friends, and he learns all about loving, caring, the simpler days that were filled with love, support, and happiness. So basically, it's about a discovery of life lessons, love, and laughter that can be experienced through the eyes of a 5-year-old child. Little Ricky, the Boy from Otter Lake, my first series, 12 amazing short stories in this full collection. I also sell each of the stories in this collection as individual short stories, and they're available on Kobo.com for an audiobook or on Amazon.ca for ebook or for a paperback book. The paperback is this particular book here. This book was very successful, so what I wanted to do was write this year, what I did is write a sequel, the sequels to each of those short stories. So this year in 2025, I published a new collection called Little Ricky, the Boy from Otter Lake, the Sequels. And in this particular little collection of 12 stories, it's the continuation of the original 12 stories that I put together in 2001. So have you ever wondered, I wonder what happened? You know, the story ends or the TV show ends and the movie ends, and you go, I wonder what happened to Jane Doe or to John or to Sally or whoever might be in the particular story that you're reading or the show that you're watching. You went, I wonder if they ever went through with that. I wonder what they did next. Did they actually buy that thing, or did they actually go to that place, or what have you? Well, now, in the case of Little Ricky, the Boy from Otter Lake, where the story ends, it doesn't end because it now continues in the sequels. You can carry on with what happens next in those original 12 short stories in Little Ricky, the Boy from Otter Lake, the sequels. Again, this collection of 12 short stories, the continuations of each of the original 12 short stories, can be found on Amazon.ca or Kobo.com. A couple years after I wrote my first collection of short stories, fans were encouraging me to write some more. So I came out and I wrote my second collection of 12 short stories, which is called Little Ricky, the Lad from Otter Lake, Adolescent Adventures. In this case, I aged my main character, my protagonist, Little Ricky, to age 14. He's now a teenager and he's going to high school. And as we all know, teen years can be challenging, fun, difficult, weird, interesting, all of those. So in this case, in each of these 12 original short stories, Ricky, the 14-year-old boy, experiences all the things that a teenager would, and he gives, he learns lessons that every teen should perhaps know about or learn about, and these stories extend from that particular time to today. So a wonderful collection of short stories. Now, this collection, the second collection, Little Ricky, the Lad from Otter Lake, was so big that I had to split it into two parts. To be able to publish it, I had to publish it in two books. So it's available in part 1 and part 2. Part 1 is the stories number 1 through 6, and part 2 is stories number 7 through 12. But again, the full collection in two parts include 12 short stories. Again, they're short stories filled with love, compassion, forgiveness, learning, lessons, all of that stuff of emotion-filled short stories full of everything that you'd want to experience as a budding teen, or remember to go back in time to remember what it was like to be a teenager. Again, Little Ricky, the Lad from Otter Lake, Adolescent Adventures. Lastly, I have a third collection called Little Ricky, the Young Man from Otter Lake. This collection will also have eventually 12 short stories, but I'm working on it. I do have 3 stories currently published, available on Amazon.ca and on Kobo.com, and one more coming out this summer. I might have another 2 before the end of the year. My goal is to have 12 short stories by the end of 2026, maybe into 2027. I've had some health issues, so I wasn't able to complete the full 12 short stories, but they're coming along. I plan on writing those and publishing them one story at a time until I have the full collection. Then they will be available with 12 stories in the collection, like the other first 2. Anyhow, so there are 3 current stories available, one very soon, maybe another 2 more by the end of the year. But those stories, all of those, collection 1, collection 2, collection 3, are not the focus for today. Today's focus is Little Ricky, the Lad from Otter Lake, Adolescent Adventures, but a story called The Gallant Ghost. Today's Reading with Ricky stories feature, the story that I'm going to feature today is called The Gallant Ghost. So if you hang in there, I'll be right back and we'll get into Reading with Ricky for The Gallant Ghost. Be right back. Hey, thanks for coming back. I really appreciate you sticking around for this short story, the Reading with Ricky version today for The Gallant Ghost. So here is the paperback version of The Gallant Ghost. It's available on Amazon.ca in paperback. It's also available on Amazon.ca for ebook and on Kobo.com as an audiobook. So today though, we're going to be reading from this short story, and I want to start by showing you the book, the cover, the back page, a little bit of information about the story and about me as the author. And I want to read the teaser paragraph that introduces the story. So hang on, here's the teaser for the story, The Gallant Ghost. Little Ricky, the Lad from Otter Lake, Adolescent Adventures, The Gallant Ghost. In Canada and across West Quebec, especially in and around the communities of Otter Lake and Shawville and the Pontiac region, October is the month when most teens excitably await the mid-month long weekend of Thanksgiving and the days leading up to Halloween fun. By month's end, most are keyed up for Halloween costumes, parties, treats, and of course, spooky times. However, for one melancholy teen, October events are not top of mind. As a troubled young student, Rose finds out the hard way that ending one's life is not the answer to resolving trauma of the mind and body. She realized that built-up sadness, hurt, and poignant pain can endure. Thankfully, Ricky, the Lad from Otter Lake, and a few of his trusted schoolmates, after being inspired by some thought-provoking and unexpected lessons given to them by Miss Eslpeth Russell, an extremely talented history teacher, were all able to provide emotional and spiritual support to dearest Rose. Luckily, Rose finds mysterious ways to communicate her distress to her friends, and thankfully, she is able to move beyond the suffering from within her soul. So that is the introductory paragraph, the teaser paragraph for Little Ricky, the Lad from Otter Lake, Adolescent Adventures, The Gallant Ghost. Hang in there, I'll be right back, and we'll have the reading of the introductory part of this story. So we're going to have a reading with Ricky now called from the story called The Gallant Ghost. Here is the picture for the Gallant Ghost, the artwork from within the book. And here is a little bit more artwork of the Prime Minister, Mr. William Lyon Mackenzie King. There's a Ouija board, Rose down there in the bottom corner, and a few other people. Of course, roses all around because her name was Rose, and she loved roses, everything around. It's not like roses when Rose's ghost would come about. So anyway, here we go. Here's the reading from Little Ricky, the lad from Otter Lake, Adolescent Adventures, The Gallant Ghost. It was like Mother Nature had flipped the switch. The beautiful, sunny, and warmer days that had lasted throughout this month of September ended abruptly. October had rushed in with brisk, wetter, cooler, and much shorter days. From the first Monday of October 1st until today, the weather had been dreadful. Since the beginning of the month, the nights had been cold, with the temperatures often dropping below freezing, which resulted in nearly all of the remaining tree leaves gathering heavy frost overnight. This morning, cold and blustering winds ripped the poor autumn-colored leaves from the trees, blew them in swirls across the sky, and then sent them tumbling down to the ground. The poor deciduous trees across all of West Quebec stood naked, stark, and cold. Farmers and gardeners alike prayed for just one more bit of time before their crops. All right, so here's a reading of The Gallant Ghost. It was like Mother Nature had flipped the switch. The beautiful, sunny, and warm days that had lasted throughout the month of September ended abruptly. October had rushed in with brisk, wetter, cooler, and much shorter days. From the first Monday of October 1st until today, the weather had been dreadful. Since the beginning of the month, the nights had been cold, with temperatures often dropping below freezing, which resulted in nearly all of the remaining tree leaves gathering heavy frost overnight. This morning, cold and blustering winds ripped the poor autumn-colored leaves from the trees, blew them in swirls across the sky, and then sent them tumbling to the ground. The poor deciduous trees from all across West Quebec stood naked, stark, and cold. Farmers and gardeners alike prayed for just a bit more time to bring in their crops, to reap the remaining yields that were still in their garden beds and fields. Collectively, these beleaguered people were hoping for just a few more drier days to complete the harvest before the arrival of any potential snows at the end of the month. Without a few more suitable days of warmer, drier weather, tolling to produce Everyone was getting tired of being wet and cold. It seemed that these days would never end, and the mood amongst both teachers and students was low. Surely, they thought, the weather must change for the better by the long weekend of Thanksgiving in mid-October? Certainly, that was not too much to ask. While most of the adolescents at Victoria High felt unhappy and were in the doldrums, sadly, it was much worse for one frightened and troubled student. When she left the house that morning, she felt confident that she had completed everything she needed to do. The night before, she had tidied up her quaint room. She had pressed and folded all of her clothing and had placed each garment neatly into a feminine cream-colored, rose-accented chest of drawers. Anything that needed to be hung up was placed dutifully upon fabric-covered hangers in her bedroom closet. She had sorted through all of her papers, cards, and mementos. She had carefully folded all papers and had returned all of those greeting cards to prop crisper envelopes in her drawer. Feeling satisfied, she slid open the top drawer of her desk and assembled these items squarely in the front of the drawer. This is the beginning of The Gallant Ghost. If you're liking the story and would like to know the rest of the story about poor Rose, the Gallant Ghost, I hope you'll find it on kobo.com and amazon.ca. It's a wonderful little ghost story about Rose, the Gallant Ghost. And you will certainly enjoy the story because there's also a visit from Canada's 10th Prime Minister as a ghost in this particular story. Again, this story is available for a sale on kobo.com and amazon.ca. When you buy a book from me, that money that you spend on that book, the royalties I make, go directly to a food bank. If you're liking my YouTube videos, give me a thumbs up. It would be great to have a thumbs up. Leaving a comment means so much to me. I would love to hear from you. I'd love to get your comments. That'd be wonderful. And if you want to subscribe to my channel, that'd be terrific. That way you'll never miss another video. And of course, if you hit that notification bell there in YouTube, you'll certainly be notified anytime I upload a new video. Anyhow, this is my story for today, The Gallant Ghost. I wish you a wonderful, happy day. Take care all. Bye-bye.